This is Mike and C, and this is another episode of You Can't Handle the Truth. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I don't know if you have an opinion about the whole debacle with Trump getting arrested and what all's transpired or how much you know about that. I mean, I haven't been following it closely or anything because I've been more concentrated on what's happening specifically in Florida and with the Florida legislator. And I think it's just kind of ironic how this is happening now. There's all these things happening with these really rights infringing bills that are being passed in a lot of different states, and that we're all being distracted by maybe Trump's arrest. I don't know.
Yeah, distractions are commonplace in this day and age that we live in. I mean, I can't keep track, first of all, of the amount of charges because I don't think we know what all the charges are. And that's interesting to me
I just
as
know
an attorney, not knowing what the charges are. What are the charges against him?
I just know.
Do we know any of them?
No, I mean, I just know that there's like a hooker involved, right? Is that what she is?
And again, that's what's the grand scale effect of this? I mean, we got election coming up at some point, right? And you could say this is related to the things that's happened recently in Tennessee, right? And then there's also, recently Trump was actually bashing DeSantis. And, did these correlate, or is this just coincidence? Or
I don't know. It is ironic how, the two, Republican, front leaders in terms of running for the next presidential election, or at least that's what we hear. One now has been arrested, and then the other is just passing laws left and right.
Yep. It's interesting. It's going to be, without all of the information, do we have all the information? That's the question. That's where you can make an informed decision about what's really happening. But like I said, I'm not even sure what he's been charged with on every single count. I know there's multiple. I heard as upwards as 30 or 40.
I honestly haven't followed it at all because I think it's a smoke and mirrors type of situation. It'll be a good documentary that I can watch in 5 years.
Yeah, on Netflix.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be 2 episodes. The Jared Fogle one just came out.
Yeah.
So we're listening to that one. That's interesting reading. Go buy a Subway. So what are we doing? Do we want to talk about Morgan & Morgan?
Do we want to talk about Morgan & Morgan? Who doesn't want to talk about Morgan & Morgan? So let's talk about why we're talking about Morgan.
Yeah.
So, when DeSantis signed the tort reform bill into law, before he did that, there were some things that our current cases were going to be affected. So what we had to do, and if you want to dive into this a little bit more, but the certain cases that were going to be so affected by the changes in the law, we had to get filed before that bill got signed into law because it went into effect that day, which again, if you look at something, outside of the bubble, it's a little like, okay, why don't we have months and months and months, before this law comes into effect?
But so what happens now? We have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of lawsuits that were filed, and the courts were already still being pushed back because of COVID. We're still in that era. Now they have 1 million files. I mean, that's being exaggerated, but it was well documented. It was hundreds of thousands.
And so Morgan & Morgan specifically filed 25,000.
Right.
And so when this all happened, there was one of the above the law article. Above the law article. They used to do a lot of stuff about my law school. They used to write a lot of nasty things about my law school.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Above the Law came out with an article that basically leaked an email from Matt Morgan that was talking to the 900 attorneys that are in the firm, and specifically how they were going to treat insurance companies moving forward. Right. So, did you want to talk about that? Just I have some comments, but it's more like side notes.
Well, one of the things that's interesting to me is that you get on, and this is just a reality. I mean, this is the firm that when you go on the you watch their commercials. I mean, one of the more recent commercials I saw was "Fire your lawyer" is what they say. Fire your lawyer. And I know from this firm we've gotten at least 4 or 5 cases from people that says they can't even talk to a lawyer. One of them that we filed before the deadline was because the guy basically was told that they weren't going to pursue the case because he was negligent. And if you delve into the facts of the case, he was not negligent, and we were able to file a lawsuit. I digress. This email tends to state that we're now going to take this hardline approach all of a sudden, as if it wasn't being taken before. We're not going to give them any, the opposing counsel on the defense side, any extensions of time, which again, that's going to contravene with the rules of procedure. So a lot of it to me is smoke and mirrors. I mean, lawyers are not going to, this whole aggressive thing that's out there, we're not going to beat you over the head with our briefcases. That's not what, aggressive means to me, just doing the right job for your client. So I have opinions on it. If you're going to say you're going to take a hard line approach and we're going to follow these lawsuits and we're not going to give you any extensions of time to answer, I just don't think that's a reality. I think that's a bunch of, blowing smoke, but I'm sure you have an opinion on it.
So I have an interesting perspective on it. So I've never worked for Morgan & Morgan, but I've worked for, a big billboard firm that pays millions of dollars in advertising. And some of the funniest things is when you have reactionary emails from the owners, the people whose names don't go up.
Right.
And, to me, it's funny. I chuckled the whole time I was reading the email, mainly because I'm so used to these dumbass emails coming from these owners who are so removed from being in the trenches and actually working their files. Because let's be very clear that, Matt Morgan does not have any caseloads, okay? He steps in and does what, and presents himself in a trial whenever it's very convenient for him to do so on big multi-million-dollar cases, okay? And it's his daddy's firm, so he's got the ability to do that.
That's fine. That's fine.
Telling your 900 attorneys that we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and this is the hardline approach we're going to take, or you're going to be in trouble. Right. That to me is just so removed from reality that they need to take a step back and start thinking about how they can better treat their attorneys and their staff in their firm, and not these dumbass hardline moves, because what they should have done is stepped up while this was all happening and used daddy's money to help
the claimants
move the needle a little bit in the house.
The analysis to me is, in addition to what you said, is just how are we helping the claimants by doing this? And if that's what we have to do to say, hey, we're not giving you an extension. I mean, I've been guilty. I mean, I'm not guilty of it. I don't give extensions when I think that I've already done it once in the case and I don't need to. But it's always with the client's best interest in mind. So that's what we got to be worried about here. Is the client's best interest in mind, or is this more of a, hey, I'm retaliating against you because I'm butthurt because you put this law up against me. Now I'm a little bit mad, so now I'm going to come back at you. And you're not really doing anything but just putting a bunch of words on it.
Well, and the issue too is it's not like we're directly communicating with insurance companies. There's a person who gets
there's a defense lawyer.
Yeah, the defense attorney is the one who takes the brunt of the wrath essentially. And to me, having good relationships with defense attorneys is really important, because a lot of times you're going to see them over and over and over again while you're going through your cases, and as an attorney, and you want to have a good reputation to these insurance defense attorneys, because they go back to their client, which is the insurance company, and they say, they defend you essentially against their client, because they're like, listen, this attorney is reasonable. She's, she means no nonsense. She knows what she's talking about, and she is, what they're doing is fair. And you want an insurance defense attorney to go back to their client and not only advocate for your client, but advocate for you, because ultimately you're a package deal. Because when you're in front of a jury, you want to be liked as, you want the jury to like you as an attorney, and you want a jury to like your client as a plaintiff.
Yes, and so that there's no misunderstanding. You get these aggressive, whatever you want to call them, defense lawyers all the time. It actually happens less now than ever. I've been doing this for 21 years, and those get met the same way. I mean, honestly, if I have a defense lawyer getting aggressive with me, I just handle it in the way I need to handle it. I usually don't have a problem.
Yep.
You're not going to take advantage of me. You're not going to take advantage of my client. But so we have to be conscious of that. These are a bunch of different files. They're out here. I mean, they file 25,000, and I'm sure those are 25,000 claimants. And these cases have to be met individually to determine what's the best route for the client. If it means bashing the heads out of all these insurance defense lawyers on every case, I highly doubt that. It's more of what goal do we have for this particular case. So it's interesting that that's out there, but it could be also, like you said, it's almost like a rah-rah kind of thing that was probably not meant to be leaked out onto above the law, but somehow they got a hold of it, which that's interesting too. I don't know.
Yeah. I was hoping somebody would leak some of the additional emails to me. I was like, please send your emails to me. because the best comments to these emails are who follows up, right?
Right,
Senior
right.
partners who've been there a long time, who have a voice and can say stuff.
Right.
And they comment on top of these emails and comment, and it just becomes like a huge, big, dramatic, like kind of bash.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. I'd like to know who leaked out that email.
Me too. I don't know if we'll ever find out. But anyway, if you think this is interesting, want us to dive in more, talk about it, comment, like, share, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.